Hi, I'm Jason from 2 Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Moondrop SSPs. These are the latest offering from Moondrop, which is a retuned version of the SSR. These are supposed to be a bit bassier than the SSRs and a bit softer. Um, there's not a lot of things to say that pretty much sums up the whole review because that's what they've done. So we'll just start off with a disclaimer like we usually do. I bought this unit from a seller on Tokopedia. I'm not affiliated to the seller or Moondrop as a brand, and this review is completely of my own opinion. Alright, so TLDR, it's a bassier, softer version of the SSRs. The bass is a bit looser, the treble region is a bit softer. There's a very small smidge cut in the 3K region, but it's mostly still there. It sounds more like a V-shaped earphone now than it does diffuse field, I would say. And that's all I have to say. Now we'll just go straight into the more details of the sound, and we'll just start off with bass. So the bass of the SSRs are, I would say, medium in terms of speed, medium to slow, I would say even. Uh, Now with this bass emphasis that they've gone with in the SSPs, uh, they've sort of sacrificed the speed that they had with the SSRs. So it's not the fastest bass in the world. It will fall behind quite easily now. But in return, you will now get quite big sub bass slam. Actually, it's not too big. It's just enough, I would say. I would say sub bass slam and the SSPs are just enough. Mid bass punch is also there. It's not the biggest punch in the world. I sometimes want more in the mid bass punch, but I'm not gonna complain too much about the mid bass punch on the SSPs. Um, and with that, with the additional punch and slam and just overall emphasis in the bass region of the SSPs, it also introduces a bit more texture compared to the SSRs, so I find that to be quite nice. And with this emphasis also, it continues going all the way into the mid-range, which we're going to talk about now. So the mid-range of the SSPs now sound a bit more bodied compared to the SSR, and I would say even overall, I think the mid-range of the SSPs have some body at least. They're not really, I wouldn't really say that they're thin. They're just sort of hollow. It's the SSPs have some body in the mid range, but there's just something lacking. There's just something that I find is missing. It's like sort of like the mid range just seems to be lacking in the SSPs. In contrast to the upper mids and the bass that exists, or the lower mids, the SSPs seem to be lacking just something in the mid ranges, and it irks me sometimes. But it's not a huge offender like the SSRs were. So I would give it that. Vocals sound a bit more quote unquote correct, I would say. Now, going along with the trend, now the upper mids have not changed from the SSRs. I still find these to be extremely offensive when you listen to any female vocalist, violin, or whatever instrument that has something in the upper mid range. It's unbearable for me still. With the additional bass that they've introduced in the SSPs, it's a bit more bearable. Kind of counterbalances the tuning, but even if I try to not pay too much attention to it, if I try to ignore it, it still starts to hurt my ears after a 15-minute listening session. This review took a bit longer than I expected it to take. I thought that, well, it's just a basic version of the SSRs. This would be easy. It took a bit longer because I kind of kept on forgetting that the upper mid peak tires out my ears quite quickly, and I will not be able to analyze music as nor I would normally be able to. So, yeah, it kind of makes me forget sometimes that there is this huge upper mid peak because of the counterbalancing the bass. So I guess I could give credit to Moondrop for that, but on the other hand, it still hurts my ears, so that's still not good. And yeah, I just there's not a lot of a lot to comment here. It still has the same issues as the SSR. It's just too much upper mids. Some vocals sound too shrieky, shouty. What other words can I use here? I'm not sure, but it just doesn't sound. It's not a sound that I would be able to listen to for a long time, and I would not be able to enjoy music with. This part of the review is taking a bit too long, so we'll just straight up go into the treble. And Moondrop has fixed a bit in the treble region. Also, they've tuned it down a bit. The 6K to 8K region actually has been cut off by like about 2 to 5 decibels, so that has helped quite immensely. Actually, in terms of fatigue, it took a bit longer to get fatigue from the SSPs than it did for me and the SSRs. From the SSRs, just going through one song was torture. It was unbearable. Now with the SSPs, it was a bit more bearable. So yeah, treble extension, speed, whatever, that remains the same with the SSRs. Not a lot of change here. And that pretty much does it for this review. Soundstage and imaging has not changed much. Soundstage, I think there's a bit more width than there is depth in the SSPs, same as the SSRs. With bass being more present, it might sound a bit closer than it normally does compared to the SSRs, but it really isn't. It's just perceived a bit closer because there's more bass. Imaging is still about the same in terms of accuracy. There's really not a lot of things I can say about the SSPs that I haven't said about in the talked about in the SSR review. So just so that I don't have to redo all the comparisons in the world, I will just compare it to the SSR, give more details about that. Bass region, I would say the SSRs are definitely faster. They have less punch and overall slam compared to the SSPs. The mid range or the SSRs are miserable to me. They just don't. They're very thin. They sound shrieky, shouty. It's just lacking a lot of things in the mid range of the SSRs. Treble is just, well, excessive. Upper mid and treble in the SSR is just excessive. In the SSPs, I think it's been toned down a bit. It's a bit more bearable. I wouldn't prefer it. Okay, actually, no, I would prefer it, but I wouldn't prefer it compared to all the other options that exist out there. There's a whole lot of other IEMs you could buy at this price range that can give you a lot better sound. And this just ain't it. I know Moondrop seems to be trying to play around with some new targets. They're trying to get into diffuse field tuning and then just trying to play around with these targets compared to their usual Harman tuned IEMs like the Moondrop A8, S8, Blessing 2s, all those Shazam. And the illumination, the new top of the line IEM, single dynamic driver IEM that they introduced, seem to be tuned quite similarly to the SSPs, but with less upper mids, trebles, and I think more or less the same bass in terms of frequency response. I haven't heard the illumination yet. I have not had the balls to just pull the trigger on those because that's a huge price tag to just throw around for just some random review, and if it turns out bad, I might not be able to sell it and recuperate the costs. And we're running this whole channel with our own money. We're just losing money. We're not gaining anything here, so I can't really invest that much money into that just now, as of yet. yeah, it's what it goes for, like what, $700, $800. Can't do that just now, just not yet. Unless somebody lends it to me, or I just sell all my other stuff. But we're getting off topic. I just want to compare these again to the E2000, E3000s, or the E1000s from Final Audio. You can't go wrong with any of the Final Audio series. If you want a more neutral presentation with less bass, you can get the Final Audio E1000s. You want the bassy signature like you would get in the SSPs, but with a lot warmer mid-range, with more natural quote-unquote mid-range and less treble. You can get the E2000s or E3000s. The E3000s have a lot, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but it has more bass than the SSPs. The E2000s are a bit more in line with the SSPs in terms of bass quantity. The E1000s are a bit, they're more similar to the SSRs in terms of bass quantity compared to the SSPs, but I think they're still quite adequate in terms of quantity. Comparing these to the Tin 2 Plus, I would get the Tin 2 Plus any day of the week. If you want a more clinical, neutral, bright sort of signature, you can get just the Tin T2 only, the original Tin T2. Those would serve you a lot better. They also have better technicalities compared to the SSPs or the SSRs. And yeah, you get my point. There's just a lot of better options out there. The SSPs just don't offer anything that I could think of that make them stand out of the other IEMs, aside from these interesting boxes that Moondrop seem to provide. And I've heard from people that some people buy these just for the boxes, which, if you're into that, then it's fine, but it's not my cup of tea. I don't want to comment too much on that. It's whatever. If you buy these solely for the art on the box, do that. I mean, I can't stop you. Maybe that's a whole other category of things to review. I don't really do artwork reviews as of yet, but yeah, I just do audio reviews. I'm not a good judge of art. Yeah. I didn't cover accessories and what's inside the box because that's pretty much the same as the SSR. Just go over to my SSR review and you can just go over that. It's just a pouch, few ear tips, very basic ear tips, some manual. That's it. Nothing special. And I think that does it. I think that pretty much does it for this review of the Moondrop SSPs. Alright then, I'll leave what Brian thinks right about now. Like if you liked it, comment what you think, subscribe if you want more content like this, and I'll see you next time.